So in this video, basically, I was going to talk about PlayStation 5 and its potential release date as well as cost. There's been a lot of speculation going around about how much it's going to cost for a while now. Because of different things, such as the fact that a while back it was said there was a report. Don't know if it was actually true or not, but there were reports that it cost $450 basically to make the system in terms of how much the parts cost that are used to build the system. I don't know how much is added to that when you factor in shipping and whatnot. Because I think that was just simply for like the parts themselves, not counting, like I said, the shipping and how much the you know that cost added to that. But yeah, 450 was the idea, and then there was talk about well, if it's 450, maybe it'll sell for 500 because after you factor in those other costs, it'll be closer to 500. They don't want to take a loss or something, even though Sony has taken a loss on the systems in the past. But that's kind of where it started. And then more recently, the big thing has been several different sites have potentially released or have potentially leaked, and I say potentially because obviously we don't know if the amount is correct or not, but several sites recently have what looks like leaked the price, and that is Amazon and Target, I believe, both did, and there might have even been another website or two that I'm kind of forgetting about. I don't remember. I just remember hearing there was several different websites that basically had the price listed for the digital version of the PlayStation 5 at 400 and the physical version, the one I plan on getting, at 500. And because it's multiple sites now that have done that recently, and it's not just been one, and the fact that it's not too crazy in terms of the price, because there had also been some talk about the system being like $700 or something just outrageous. But the fact that like we've had several different sites now that have done the 400 and 500 thing and then gotten pulled makes me think that there's something to that. So I'm starting to think that that will be the price. I was thinking at one point maybe we'd get 400 for the digital and 450 for the physical, or maybe 450 for the digital, 500 for the physical. But I kind of feel like they might go more of a $100 difference rather than 50. And the reason that I believe that they'll go with the 100 rather than the 50 difference is that with a 50 difference compared to 100, you're less likely to convince people to get the digital. With the $100 difference, you're more likely to convince people to get the digital. And if you're Sony, I think you prefer that because even though it's a little less money, the big thing with is I don't know all the details, but when you sell a game physically, you're not getting as much money basically as digitally. And the reason for that is that when you sell a game physically, that the store gets, I don't know how much the store gets, but the store gets at least something from that. It's not a zero that they get from that. It's probably kind of similar to how movie theaters don't get a lot of the box office money, and most of it's from the food kind of thing. But yeah, they don't get zero, so they do get something out of that. And of course, you have to pay for basically the shipping and the packaging and all that. Where with digital, you don't have to do that. So basically, if you're able to have to make less physical copies and all that price that comes with making physical copies, and instead say a few extra million of what was would be physical become digital, then you can make more money. The other big thing with that too is that with digital, people can't resell games or can't sell games like they can with digital too, which makes a difference. Because with the if you're selling games, then that fact that creates the used market, and the fact that you can't get digital games used makes it too where you could perhaps get more money for everything being digital. The fact that more people are going to be not getting used games, and so with that $100 difference, more people may be enticed to go the digital route rather than the physical route. The big thing though with that too is that if you go the digital route, and you had PlayStation 4 games on disc, you're going to lose out on the backwards compatibility that you had because PlayStation 5 is going to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4. We know that, and if you don't have the disc, or if you don't have one that plays disc, and that's what you had that you weren't digital during that gen, you're going to lose that. It's different if you were were digital and you're going to stay with that, but yeah, that's not the case. Then it's different. But yeah, 400, 500, I feel like is what's going to happen. And then the other big thing has been there's been a lot of debate about the release date of the system, because right now it's just holiday 2020 is what we've been told. And for a while I actually thought it would get delayed because of the coronavirus. It's just been kind of how I felt. The fact that it seems like everything's being affected, and it seems like expect the worst this year when it comes to everything, and don't expect anything to be on time. And so I thought it would be like that for a while in the systems, but it sounded more and more like that's not going to be the case as we've gotten closer and closer to holidays now, and not had any sort of update about, well, it's going to get delayed or anything like that. And the fact that it is being manufactured already, the systems have started doing that, which is about where we should be in that regard, kind of thing. But I think that the date will probably end up being November 20th. There's been some talk about that date before. It's a week before Black Friday. When you say holiday 2020, for release date, typically consoles like that come out between like late October and kind of late November. October would be cool, but I don't see that happening. I see it being probably November 20th. And the reason for that is that I think that date has also been leaked a few times, but the big thing was Cyberpunk 2077 got delayed today officially to November 19th. And, if that's the case, that PlayStation 5 comes out on November 20th, that would only be a day after Cyberpunk 2077 now is coming out. And I just feel like the fact that Cyberpunk got delayed to that particular date when it was saying September, and the fact that for a while I thought it wasn't going to make it September date just because there hadn't really been updates about it being delayed or anything for a while. But the fact that now it has, and it happens to be November 19th, I think November 20th makes a lot of sense, because then you could get Cyberpunk could basically be a cross-gen day one patch for PlayStation 5 if PlayStation 5's out basically day one, because PlayStation 5's would be one day later, and the November 20th is also a Friday, and it's 1 week before Black Friday. So yeah, I'm pretty convinced that that's the case, that we're looking at a 400 digital, 500 physical in terms of the price, and November 20th. So I'm just kind of interested to see your guys' comments. Do you guys think that's the price? And do you guys think that's the release date, and that those basically different websites that posted like prices and release dates and stuff before they were pulled, if you believe that those are correct and that's kind of what we're getting at, or do you think it'll have a different release date or a different price? The last thing is I've heard some speculation about the digital and the physical having a different size hard drive. That makes absolutely no sense, though, because the big point with the digital is not just the fact that you give people more options, and then, like I said, if more people buy the digital, you can make more money because of the fact that they can't resell games and all that stuff. But the other reason that doesn't make sense is that one of the points, too, of the digital version is the fact that you don't have to, for Sony, is the fact that you save a little bit of money on how much it costs to actually build the thing, because of the hard drive, or the Blu-ray player in it, 4K Blu-ray player in it, and disc drive is what I meant to say. But yeah, if you don't have that disc drive in there, you save a little bit of money on the production costs by not having to pay for that disc drive. So then if you were to actually add more hard drive space, you would basically be getting rid of the fact that you didn't have the hard drive in there when it comes to the price to actually make that thing. It doesn't really make sense to, take out a component of the system that makes it a little bit cheaper to make, only to then replace it with something that costs just as much or maybe even more, probably more with how much SSDs cost, even if it was just a slight difference in space. But yeah, that doesn't make sense to put a bigger SSD in there that's going to cost just the same as the difference, or as what it costs to not have the hard drive in there, and most likely even, like I said, more, because then you're degrading the fact that you were going to have a system that costs less to make. So kind of what's the point in that, and as well as the fact that all games now have to be installed to the hard drive. That started happening with PlayStation 4. PlayStation 3, some games did, but most games didn't have to be. And that's why it was a lot easier to take up less space, as well as the fact that games weren't quite as big, as games keep getting bigger and bigger. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. And the fact that everything, like I said, everything has to be installed. So because of that, it don't really matter in terms of digital or physical. You're going to take up the same amount of space with the games that you are buying and playing on the system. But yeah, anyway, just like to see your guys' comments and thoughts below, and subscribe if you like this. And see you later.